One. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday night 8 o'clock Central live stream. If you are out there, give us a warm welcome. We're just going to let everything catch up for a minute. So tonight we have prosperity on the menu. So I'm going to look at my chats, George, and see who is joining us here. So I'll let you know as soon as, there we go, I see it. All right. So my son, George Anthony, is going to be joining us tonight. And welcome, Andrea and Ryan. I see you out there. We are going to talk about none other than the keys that have built this entire ministry from the ground up. So George was actually, from the ground up here. Welcome, Anisha. So as you guys know, I talked about it in the post. I wrote about it this week, and it has to do, welcome, Angel. When I was just becoming in a bad place, welcome, Randy, with Lyme disease, George decided to come into this world. Welcome, Sabrina. And, he had the perfect timing, came in to be part of my life and to teach me all sorts of things. And ever since that day, he's always been this powerful little guy and very positive, and he loves God. So George, Angel says hello to you.
Hi.
Welcome, Gustavo. And you guys can ask George questions too. He'll be on. So George, being 12 years old, what are some of the key things that you've learned about God so far? Let's just get right into it and let's see what we can talk about.
So, first I would say is tithing is one of the biggest, like when I tithe to God, whenever I make money. And also I think, when I want something, I'll imagine having it and then imagine the feeling of like using it and then saying I have it and then I'll get it pretty much.
Yeah. So, Angel, little Mario says hi to you. So he's
Hi.
Yeah, you guys had a chance to connect. Did you have fun over the holiday, or we call it a holiday, but it was a workshop? Did you have fun, George?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys do?
Mainly the water park and then we watched some movies too.
Nice. So tell me from your perspective, George, what do you know about tithing? What is it, first of all, and what do you know about it?
So, should I say how it works quick? Like how tithing, like what you
Yeah,
do?
yeah, from your perspective, what do you know if you were having to explain it to somebody and they don't know anything about it?
So whenever you make money, you take 10% of it, and you take 10% tithe it to God. And how you tithe it to God is through who teaches you about God. So like your mentor, pretty much. And then you tithe 10% to your business so that you can help grow your business. And then 10% to yourself. And the money you have for yourself is pretty much like when I like to have money in my bank account so I can look at like stuff I want, and then it's just fun to see like, oh, I can buy that, I can buy that. And that's what the 10% to yourself is, and then the rest is like money you can like spend on stuff or do whatever you want with.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very good explanation of it. So what has it done for you in terms of some experiences that you've noticed where God's been involved?
Well, one thing was I'd been wanting this there was this really expensive Lego Jurassic Park set one Christmas, and it was like I think almost like $200, and I really wanted it. And then for Christmas at my grandma's, I got it as a present. And that's one example of. And then also here's a minute. Lots of other stuff too.
Yeah, like you're well, pretty much everything you get comes from God.
Yeah.
So it's the ultimate form of honor and, praise to God is to sacrifice up what belongs to God in order to receive what he's already given you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what are some of the other insights that you've learned about, walking in God, and even some of the things that you've reminded me of sometimes when it comes to keeping the faith?
Well, sometimes like you won't get any money from anything. You'll start to get scared because you have like stuff you have to pay for, like bills and stuff, and then you'll be freaking out talking about how you have no money and like there's no money coming in. I'll remind you that there is going to be. You just gotta know that there is, because God's going to give it to you.
Yep. See, even in my flesh, guys, we all are humanly subject to coming into crunch situations. So, what happens is the higher level that you get to, the more responsibility, which means you have to have more faith. And so there's no better person to consult than somebody with childlike faith, because at the end, you just have to become childlike in your faith again. And so the good thing is you haven't become adulted, George. You haven't become adulterated. So how do you keep that faith? How do you stay calm in times when things are in an upheaval with you?
Well, I know that pretty much like God, since I like tithe and honor God, that he'll protect me, like no matter what. And it could be through anything. Like my YouTube channel not long ago got deleted because I was 1 year underage. So, but I know that's good because I started a new YouTube channel with my dad. And so as bad as it was good because now I get to make a new channel with my dad.
Yeah. So that's a great, well, we have that in common. So let's look at some of these comments. We have Queen is here. Welcome, Queen. We have Casper, and Angel says little Mario says hi too. And Casper says hi, George and Matt. Mikkel is watching, and Queen says such a cutie. Hello, allow family. Thank you, Queen. And Anisha, the water park was awesome. Bruce is here. Christian and Helen, learning a lot. So much resonates. Thank you for the inspiration. Sasha is here. And Sasha says, good evening, Minister George Anthony. Lead the way. And Jean is here, and Brian. So yes, George, the one thing that I'm so grateful for and I praise God for is the blessing that I have with my kids in my life. Every one of them is special and unique, and I love them all equally, the same as the others. And then with that said, George has taken a very strong interest in wisdom, and he actually homeschools, what they would call, unschooling, etc. And he's been learning about things that I always wished I would have learned growing up, like, first of all, God, second of all, financial literacy, and some of the new things, and like cryptocurrencies and where the markets are going. So what are some of the things, George, that excite you, on your own, and then some of the things that I've brought to the table that you're learning from homeschooling that excite you these days?
Well, one thing is I like knowing that, like since I honor God and I tithe to him, that let's say I want let's say there's this Lego set I want. Let's say I don't have enough money for it, so I know if I can get it by imagining having it and then like feeling myself having it, and eventually it'll come. Like it could come in any way. It could come in like me getting like a gift card to buy it, or or like somebody like selling it online for a low price. Or I think that's just something really interesting because I think it's just really cool.
Yeah, all possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so what book are you reading right now that you're doing for the homeschooling?
So I'm reading quite a bit, but my main one I'm reading over here. I can go get it quick and see the title. This is the one I'm reading right now, because I have quite a bit I'm reading, but this is my current one I've been reading the most is one.
Dr. Joseph Murphy, Miracle of Mind Dynamics.
Yep.
So what, if you were to teach one thing from that book, like one principle that you've learned, what would be the thing you'd want to teach from that book?
Well, it's been mainly talking a lot about like what I've been saying, like when you like imagine having it and you will receive like tithing and honoring God, and then you will receive like there's some stories in there, like I think there was one where this football player, he was out, I think he got his, I forgot what it was, but he broke a limb and he wouldn't be out of the hospital for 3 weeks and he had a big game coming up. So he imagined himself being healed and then he was out of there in about 3 days. And that was pretty cool.
That's good. And what are some of the things that you're excited about that you're doing on your own?
Like, from like my teachings that I've been learning about.
Actually, without just on your own inspiration that you're doing without anybody telling you to do it. What are some of the things that you're passionate about?
Like just like stuff in general.
Yep.
Well, I like making stop motion films and videos, like stop motion where you take it can be anything, and you move it and you take a picture and you move it and you take a picture and you keep doing that, and then eventually it makes a film. And that's something I'm interested in. And also, I have a crypto portfolio and I'm building that up. And that's also something I'm really sort of liking.
Yeah. And he did, and George likes that on his own. I introduced him to the world of cryptocurrency, and George really is excited about it. So what are some of your favorite cryptocurrencies that you're most excited about?
Well, the ones that have been going up the most that I think I'm excited about is Link has been doing quite good, and then Engine has been pretty stable. But I think it was mainly like Link, and then I think the other one was like ZRX or something.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is like, especially Link, that one like will just go up $50. Like when this live stream is starting, I checked my money went up $30. So
Nice.
yeah. And also I think Bitcoin is going up a little bit.
So how do you deal with money? Like what is the amount, let's say if I were to give you $100 for doing some work for us, how would you handle that money and including, putting what percentage would you put into, your crypto, into your personal? How would you handle $100 if you were to earn $100 today?
I think, of course, I would tithe, do 10% to God, 10% to my business, and then I think the 10% to my business would be my crypto, and then 10% to myself. And then the rest of it, I think I might invest like 20% of that into the crypto, and then put the rest in like savings just to have in my account. And yeah, that's what I would do with it.
Awesome. Well, that's really good. Let's look at the comments here. We have, so Ginny is here. Welcome, Ginny. And Andrea says, very good book. We'll invest in buying it. Thanks, George. So yeah, that is a very good book, isn't it? And Sasha's reading Ask Until It Is Given. That's one that I wrote. Casper, Lego rocks, and it's Danish. So you got some Lego fans out there. And Sabrina, George, your mom's out there saying everything comes back to Legos with you, LOL. Are you seeing these comments?
Yep.
Yeah, so you got a lot going on here. Mitchell's here, and Christian says awesome. And Gene says this little guy's advanced way ahead of time. I know nothing about crypto. Well, you'll get to learn, Gene, if you want to. George and I are going to do a channel together, YouTube, and I really firmly believe, George will far exceed the anointing that I've had on my life. And I'm just so honored to actually have George in the path of serving God. And, this is his debut. This is George's debut in his ministry in serving God, and I expect there's going to be some great things to come. So with the homeschooling, what are some of your favorite things about homeschooling that you really like?
Well, one thing is it's fun because I only have to do about 3 hours of school. Of course, I have to do school on the weekends in the summer. Just in summer, it's not as much school, but I think I like it because it's a lot freer, because I can take breaks and stuff. And then also, I get to hang out with my dad mostly all day and do school with him. And we go and do our 2 workouts a day. And also, I like it because at school, there was so many rules, and I just didn't like it because I just didn't like how long the days were and all the stuff that there was.
Yep. And you've learned things already in a short time that I can swear to you that I'd never learned in all of my years in school. So remember the video you watched yesterday?
Uh-huh.
What did you learn from that video? It was a video by Crypto Lark with I think Voorhees from the exchange shapeshift.io. What did you learn from watching those two guys talk?
Well, what I got from it, I'm in crypto, but I don't know the most about it, so there's a lot of stuff that was kind of confusing to me. But what they're pretty much, from what I got, they're talking about how the cryptos go up and down, and then also I think there was stuff in there about how corrupt the government is and stuff, and but yeah, that's pretty much what I got from it. I don't know, just the crypto videos are sometimes confusing to me because
it's a new world,
and I feel it's kind of they kind of jump from thing to thing. The only thing about it is I think it's confusing. So they'll be talking about one thing, and then they'll start talking about something else, and then they'll go back to the first thing. Then that's where it starts to confuse me, is when they're just doing all this.
Yep. Do you remember the part where they talked about fiat, which are your paper dollars?
Oh yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, what did they talk about in terms of printing those and what it does? Do you remember that?
Yeah, so when they print it, when they print it, they get to buy all this expensive stuff and buy it all, and then that drives the prices up. But the thing is that's the problem because we can't print our own money. So they're printing all sorts of money and then buying stuff and then raising the prices and creating a bubble. But then everybody else can't print money, so everything's getting really expensive for them. And then yeah, they do that, and then it boosts everything up. But I think if we all were able to print money, that wouldn't be a problem because then we'd all be able to buy the high priced things.
So that, George, what you just learned right there, I went through kindergarten through 12th grade and didn't know a thing about any of that. So that's pretty powerful right there. And you see, financial literacy is something they don't teach you in school, and it's something that everybody should know before they graduate, because if everybody knew, they definitely wouldn't be sitting where they are in the situation they're in. So let's see what we have for the comments here, George. We're going to say there's one about, so Queen says, children are such a blessing. Matthew, David, Hurtado, Sabrina, Jean, I started tithing continuously since November, which has eliminated all my fear and anxiety. Awesome minister, George. I'm honestly thinking about homeschooling my daughter. Great book, powerful, what you're learning at such a young age. And then we have, let's see, Andrea wants to know, George, what book would you recommend for Ryan to read? Ryan is her son.
Well, how old is he? Because I think the book might depend on how old he is and what words he understands and stuff.
I think he's pretty close to your age, or at least similar, within a few years. So it'd be about the same age level that you would be at, I'd imagine.
I think this one's really good because, I really like it because it's really like he talks a lot about like the main things about like tithing and believing like you have it and then you receive it. I think this is a really good one. This miracle mind dynamic one.
Yes, so he's 9, George. So yes, he's a 3-year difference than you, but it's still a pretty simple book, isn't it? Because it has shorter paragraphs.
Yeah, you might have to have someone help him understand some of the parts, but I think it's a really good book.
Mm-hmm. So what I want to do now is I want to show you the 2 techniques, George, so everybody watching can understand this and show you the application of it. So if anybody wants to see the differences, you will notice real quick. So the processes I want to show you is, George, something called the ABC break process. Have you ever heard me talk about that yet? Yep. Okay, so what I want to do is, let's say you wanted to, let's say you want something, right? Like that phone that you want that flips, right? What is that thing called?
I think it's the Z Flip.
The Z Flip. So from the level of wanting the phone, what is an action that you think you should take that might get you that phone?
Well, I think first would be believing I have it, and then just like keep imagining myself having it, and then like talk like I have it, and just pretty much have it in my mind. Just have the phone. Also, I think that'd be the first thing I would do is just imagine myself having it. And
Yep. Well, what's good about it is that you probably already are operating from the solution in that response, but let's do something as an experiment, okay? So think about wanting the phone and just follow along with me and snap your fingers and say, it is not it.
Is not it.
Okay, now we're stopping the train of thought. In other words, we don't need to think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now could you allow for just this moment things to be exactly as they are, yes or no?
Yes.
And could you allow even more for just this moment things to be exactly as they are, yes or no?
Yes.
Good. So I invite you to just close your eyes and to go into a place of peace. So find a place that you've been to or make one up in your imagination and completely surrender yourself to a place of peace. Just let all the tension in your body go like you're floating in a pool of water. Now, sitting in this place of peace, I want you to imagine that you've had this phone for the past 5 months. It's already been yours. You've already enjoyed it. You've already been with it, experienced it. It's with you now. And then from this level of consciousness, as if you're looking back to where you began wanting the phone, what would you tell yourself from this level of awareness right now? What would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself that I think trying to like make up like basically like just like make up at like the end of every month, maybe like get like what I think is getting every month I'd like I would make up money and then I would put in savings to pay for the phone every month. And then once I make up enough money to pay for its monthly expense, I just put that into a savings and then I just have it in there too.
As a security so that you can secure your own, like if, let's say, mom gets it for you and you have to pay the monthly payment, you have something as collateral.
Yeah.
Right? So that was an insight from your solution consciousness. Now, you can also imagine yourself having it, and you can also do those techniques because those are powerful. And then you can take the practical application of putting that money aside for it so that you're already in the flow. And see how powerful that solution is that puts you in the flow of paying for the phone and assuming responsibility for it.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the name and author of the book? Somebody asks. That's Dr. Joseph Murphy, Miracle of Mind Dynamics. You want to show them the book one more time?
Yeah, here, I got the...
Yep, bring it over to the screen right there. Yep. A New Way to Triumphant Living. It's a great book. Okay, so now that you've you've experienced the ABC break process, what did you notice that was different from where that answer came? What did you notice the difference was in doing that technique?
Well, like my mind kind of just thought of an idea, like to basically get the phone, is thought of that idea all of a sudden, and then yeah.
So that's good. Let's stop right there. You see, you got an idea all of a sudden, and that came from having. See, we put you into the position of already having it, which generated an idea from that level of awareness, which is what you want. Because if you're in a little bubble right here and you're inside of there with the lack of the phone, which means that this is everything in this space is your reality. And you look around and you say, there's no phone, see? But phone's out here, right?
Yeah.
So what we did is we didn't try to figure out how to get it from being in this bubble. We actually stepped into this bubble, and all things are contained already within it. So you already had the answer. Make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. So you can use this technique to give you clarity and focus and a proven plan of action. So when you need to take inspired action, you can use that technique. All right.
Look, and I gotta plug my computer and it's about to die.
Okay. So I'm going to read some of these while George is setting up his computer. So Edmund is here. Welcome, Edmund. And Elizabeth says vision board. Yes, vision boards are great. Renee is here. Sergio. So things are popping. We just got done doing spiritual special forces, and we had Michael Jacobs, guest presenter, and we're already contemplating our next journey would be to Mount Shasta, California. And I'm calling, at least the end of it that we're going to do is allow ministries. We'll call it the Supernatural Retreat. The mountain is known and notorious for supernatural phenomenon. I've been there myself. And that's where I went to go fly out when I had Lyme disease. I went to fly out to meet Dennis Adams, the master healer on the mountain. Dennis is a unique being. He was born complete male and female when he was brought to this planet. And he had to have 9 surgeries in order to make him, the complete male version of himself. So it's a very unique situation. And the anesthetic never took hold. So what happened was he forced himself, through pain out of the body. So every time he'd have the surgery every couple of years or whatever, when he was growing up, he would actually leave his body, and he realized that he could bilocate. He could send his consciousness one place and be his body in another. So he tapped into this by the force of necessity, supernatural qualities, and ended up, getting PhDs, ended up doing a lot of study, religions, physics, put them all together, ended up going to live in the wilderness for 7 years with nothing but his sandals on, so completely naked with sandals. He lived in the wilderness for 7 years and allowed nature to educate him. He said he was growing vegetables in the winter. He was doing all kinds of, really cool, strange stuff. Well, anyway, I went to go meet him and picked up, a technique from him that I call Karma Erase, do it in my live seminars. And I also teach it online, so it's on the YouTube. But anyway, Dennis has been on the mountain for quite a while. And he said the strangest thing about that place, because it's a vortex, is that if you are not pure and you're not of the light, that place will chew you up and spit you out real quick. It's a very high energy vortex. And if you look at some of the videos on YouTube, you can see a lot of strange, UFO phenomenon, underground cities, Saint Germain, archangels, all kinds of phenomenon. You've heard about that, George, haven't you? We studied Mount Shasta once or twice. Yeah. So do you want to go to that one with me? You want to go to the supernatural retreat?
Maybe.
Yeah. What would be holding you back?
Depending on how cold or warm it is.
Okay, well, it's probably going to be a good time of year, actually, because California is usually really, really hot.
California. Oh, yeah, that'd probably be good then.
Yeah, and you want to fly on a plane, so that might be a good opportunity for you to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a comment here. Let's see. We got Sasha says, Minister George Anthony's recommendation of reading The Miracle of Mind Index. Okay, he just gave you that. Welcome, Melinda. Casper says, when is the Mount Shasta workshop? Well, we are considering, actually, Michael is there this weekend. He was doing some exploring of it because he wants to lead some hiking, maybe some sweat lodge stuff. You know, he's a former U.S. Navy SEAL, so he's a very physical guy, but he's also very spiritual, and it kind of ties the best of both worlds together there on the mountain. So he's looking at different possibilities, and he's going to have a multi-tiered workshop where there'll be several presenters, and I potentially would be one of those presenters. So that's how this retreat would work. So it's pretty exciting. I was actually thinking about doing Shasta last year, and we put it off, but he brought it up, and I thought, what a great time. So anyway, that's going to be possibly end of March, early April. It's going to come quick. So if you got it on your menu, just keep your eyes and ears peeled, and we'll start announcing it once we have concrete details. So George, you ready to learn the safe touch technique? Have you heard of that one yet?
Yeah, I've done this twice before with you.
Oh, you have? Good. So do you remember what the premise of it was, why we did it?
Yeah.
Not to be specific about your details for your life, but what does it do in particular, in general, for people?
So, like, so, I mean, I don't know how, like, but what I've gotten from it, like, what it does is it helps you, like, let's say you have a problem or something, and even though you're like, it can help you resolve that problem. I don't know much of what it does, but I've done it before, but I don't know much of like what it does.
Yeah. That's no problem. I'll explain to you. So basically, it's to release guilt, shame, and condemnation. So condemnation is a call for self-punishment. So guilt is an unnatural thing. You know, you were not created in guilt. You were created in love by God. So guilt is actually a call for self-punishment, and it's a completely unnatural thing that we have learned by dealing with other opinions on this planet. Okay. So what we do is we use the eyes because they're the windows of the soul. Okay. Now the soul is the reasoning part of you. It's linked to the human mind. Okay.
Wow.
So the spirit is of Elohim. The spirit is of Elohim, which is above. And the soul belongs to Eden, which is below. Okay. Paradise, which is the world. And the soul is contained by the mind as well, the human mind, not God's mind, but the human mind. So we want to look to that soul, and we want to go ahead and start cleansing. Okay. Because when we can make our human mind in alignment with our creator's mind, then we can create continuity of goodness, and we can actually demonstrate the kingdom of heaven that is forever at hand. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can, just look in your computer and follow along with me in your own eyes and say, I intend to release.
I intend to release
Any and all.
Any and all.
Unforgiveness.
Unforgiveness.
Guilt and shame.
Guilt and shame.
Now.
Now.
Okay, so now you've looked in your own eyes. Now grab your hands. Hands. Okay, hands-on healing. These have a bunch of chakra points in them. So you hold your hands, and now I want you to mentally, don't say it out loud, keep it to yourself, forgive everyone and everything that comes to mind right now. Because we set an intention to release guilt, which means we're holding some level of unforgiveness, because that's what binds guilt to you. Okay? It blocks love. We want to release what's blocking divine love. So whoever or whatever comes to mind, including yourself, just mentally say, I forgive you, as the images keep coming. Okay.
Close my eyes.
You just when the thoughts come to your head of anybody, you just mentally forgive them. I forgive you. I release you. I forgive you. I release you. Just keep forgiving them. Okay.
Do I say that in my head?
Yep. And then just keep doing that naturally until your mind pretty much stops bringing things up. Okay.
Yep.
And tell me when you feel complete, as if your mind is done bringing things up for forgiveness.
Okay, it's done.
Okay, so now put your hands on your heart, because out of the heart come the issues of life.
Mm-hmm.
So now what I want you to do is I want you to confess for anything that you perceive was done to you, or you did to someone else, or a judgment you made. So anywhere where you feel God's love was broken and you had a part in it, I want you to confess to God. Into that, not out loud, just do it to yourself, to God, okay?
Okay.
And then when you feel complete, you let me know.
Okay.
You're complete? Oh, you're doing it. Okay. Now, while you're doing that, let me just also add that you should also confess for your own doubt, unbelief, and fear when it comes to asking and receiving. Because in the book of Matthew, it says, ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. That's Matthew 7, verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say ask and then you should fear. Ask and you should doubt. Ask and you should have unbelief. So we want to forgive ourselves for having fear, doubt, and unbelief, and also to confess that we've had fear, doubt, and unbelief, and clear that from our hearts so that we can be in alignment with what we're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you feel complete now?
Yep.
Okay, so now just do your hands like this and say, I love, accept, and forgive myself.
In my head or out loud?
Either way. And that's it. So now I'm going to give you guys a little secret about this. So Crystal, Braden's here, and we have Mitchell says, blessings to you and yours. I must watch the replay. I'm having technical difficulties. Yes, for sure. Come back for the replay. So now what I'm going to show you is a little secret about this that I just kind of gave away the thing. Okay. When you are asking God for something, believing that God is good, believing that God gives good to only good to his children, which is you, but yet you have fear and unbelief in your heart, you need to clear that, because that is a sin. It is a sin to doubt God. It is the worst sin to doubt God. Okay. So let's say, for example, George, you're in real time, which means you're in the moment of life, in this moment, and you're saying, hey, I want this phone. You're imagining it. You've done your ABC break process. So you know how to create the action from the solution that's required to move towards it. If a moment of fear comes over you and you start to doubt God in your heart that, hey, I don't think God's going to do that. I'm afraid he's not going to do this for me. That is the time to stop and correct immediately. Stop and correct. Because what happens is if we don't correct, then we are actually in discord. We are actually in sin in those moments, because it's a sin to doubt God. You get that? Mm-hmm. So when you feel the fear coming in your heart, you stop, look in your eyes. I intend to release all this right now. Grab your hands. I forgive myself for my fear, my unbelief, and my doubt. I confess to you, God, Father, I have doubted in my heart. I have doubted your ability to be true to your word. Your word says ask and receive. It doesn't say ask and then maybe receive. It says I will receive. So I confess in my heart I have doubt. Please forgive me. I love, accept, and forgive myself. And you see, by doing that, you will stop and correct. Now that will multiply your ability to have, it'll quicken things. because the only one that's blocking you is you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So does it sound easy enough that you can use those two techniques?
Yeah.
Yep, because if you use those techniques, you'll notice that your desires will come a lot quicker. Okay. You'll be able to expand. All right. It doesn't mean you won't be tempted, because as you know, you've been there in times when I've been tempted. Sometimes the expenses, they get really high, and sometimes the income looks like it's low. We're tempted through our flesh. Sometimes everything's going really good. Sometimes there's so much more of a surplus, but you see, we don't trust in any of those human ideas of ebbs and flows, competing minds. See, we have to break from that, because what happens is we'll be tempted by fear, and fear will bring guilt. And then from the guilt, we will punish ourselves. That's what sin does. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So George, is there anything you want to, if you want to say? So actually, we got Braden wants a love bubble right now. So would you like to do a love bubble, George?
What's that?
Okay. So we're going to bubble up in love. Do you remember that thing I had you read just before we came? Do you have that with you right now?
No,
That little yellow pamphlet? Okay.
No.
But you can paraphrase it because you read it, right?
I wasn't able to read the full thing, but I was able to read like half of it.
What did you get from the half of it that you read?
Talking about like how like the love bubble things, like pretty much like if you like you can use them like if you're like in the book thing she talks about how I think she was feeling really bad about herself and she did the love bubble thing and then she wasn't like then she didn't feel sad about herself anymore.
Mm-hmm. You can bubble up things like, people, places, things. So what we're doing is we want to send a bubble of love, right, from our heart. Okay. So let's just send a bubble of love to everybody watching this right now. Okay, George, from you and I, we'll just send them a bubble of love. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So just imagine the bubble of love. Close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you guys want to join, you want to create a big bubble of love, just do this right now. Just imagine just a big bubble of love. We're just surrounding all of our ministry with it right now. Everybody who's paying attention, who's tying into this transmission. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to expand it. So now we're going to expand this bubble of love, and we're going to tie it out even further. We're going to tie it all over the planet. We're going to expand it to the whole planet. And we're going to just surround the entire planet with this bubble of love. So I'll give you an interesting story. Okay. Now just keep that bubble there consciously while I talk. Just stay feeling the frequency of love, just a high vibration of love, as you just imagine the whole planet surrounded with this. So one of the mentors who I studied, Mary Baker Eddy, who was the founder of Christian Science, and she developed a wonderful, wonderful teaching that's very, very, very instrumental in a lot of the ways that I was able to break free from illness and, things of that nature. She at one time had been attacked for her ideas, because that happens quite a bit to people who are revolutionary and changing, the status quo. And so there was an aggressive threat at one point where a gunman, she had this intuition that she should lock her office, but yet she decided not to. She would actually just, read her Bible and feel this love. So what she did is she read the Bible and she felt this great love within her heart. And sure enough, the guy with the gun came into her office, and he was coming in there to, cause harm to her or to take her life. And from that place of love, she looked at him with love and said, "You can't do that." And what happened is he stopped dead in his tracks. He was stifled and he fled. He just left. You see that what that can do? See, love is the most powerful force in the universe. So if somebody is persecuting you, somebody's attacking you, or something's going to happen that you're aware of, you can actually bubble up this love, and you can actually be from this love, and you can protect yourself with the strongest, most powerful energy, because God's law is the law of love and harmony. And there's no other law that has any validity or authority or power. God is the only, and love is the power of God. You get that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are you feeling good? Are you complete? You went 45 minutes. You were worried that we were going to be too long tonight. You did well. All right. Did you want to just thank everybody, George, for being here tonight?
Sure.
I'll let you off the live stream then.
Thank you for joining my dad's live stream tonight and my live stream too.
Yes. And guys, I'm very honored you were here to celebrate George's first live stream. He's the young youth minister in Allow Ministries, up and coming and spreading the gospel. So thank you guys. I'm going to sign you out, George. Take care, buddy, and have a good night. Okay, so we have just a couple more minutes here. I'll probably go till the top of the hour. Does anybody need any specific prayer tonight? Anybody need anything in specific? We should just make that available, I guess, for the last 15 minutes or so. So if you need any specific prayer words, just go ahead and put that up here. Yes, we do have, thank you for that. We do have amazing chemistry. George is really, really good. He has a heart, a pure heart. He is very pure. He's always been that way. He's always been so loving, and he loves God. He just absolutely loves God, and he's going to far exceed me. He's got a lot more of the anointing than I do, which is what I'm really, really honored by. So, okay. Thank you, guys. A lot of you guys say, great job, George. Good. Yep, George did an amazing job. He's calm and confident because he knows God is good. He's not up here telling you what he thinks you should hear. He's been walking the walk. He's tithed and honored God and started to learn these principles, I think probably going on a year and a half, 2 years now. So he's been in the game. So we got some prayer. Ryan is starting back up his book and he needs a prayer. Okay. So let's be specific about what I can pray for, Andrea, and others in this group could also pray as well. So just put a specific prayer up. Anybody else wants one too, just pop it up there. So I do need specific release of funds tomorrow. I need this word tonight. So Queen needs release of funds tomorrow. Well, let's pray about that tonight. See, tomorrow never comes. Tomorrow is the one thing that never comes. We always have to deal with right now. So in the right here and now, what we're talking about is the certainty in your heart that you already have been given. So we need to move into a place of certainty that it's already established. The fact of life is that God prospers, and there's nothing you can do in your human that will increase the speed of that prosperity or change the volition of it. It's already a fact. Okay? That's the misconception of human willpower, is that the prosperity is already bestowed. It's already yours. So this tomorrow idea, we need to take that off the table and to know that it's already here now, and to rest in that in your heart. I'm holding that space for you now, Queen, just to know the feeling of relief that comes when it is already in your possession. That's what you're looking for, is that feeling of relief where the stress drops from the body and the mind is as still as, like the most perfect, imagine just the bath water just sitting there without even a ripple in it. The stillness of that mind creates, one thought drops in the still mind and the ripples go out through the entire space. So once you find relief and non-judgment, realizing that God doesn't need your help, God doesn't need your advice, God doesn't need anything from you other than for you to surrender it completely, then you remain calm, you remain at peace, and you hold that stillness, and then you drop in the feeling of having it already and the thought of receiving it, and go ahead and fall asleep in that and rest in it, and then remain still, and it'll come to pass. As those ripples go out, they come back. All right, so his business, book writing, and sneaker, maybe speaker. Okay, Ryan, I will go ahead and I will imagine Ryan and his full potential. So what we're saying here is we're going to overcome confusion and fear. And we're going to know that Ryan was created by a source that is not capable of failing. It is only capable of success. So the very life of Ryan is success by its very nature, from success to success. And that success includes inspiration. It includes creative expression. It includes confidence. All of the virtues are already complete within Ryan. So since Ryan is the complete kit, then you say, how do I tap into the complete kit? Well, how you tap into the complete kit is you know that joy is the strength of the Lord, and you refer back to my 3-2-1 prosperity formula. And that formula, again, if you don't know, is at MatthewDavidHurtado.com. I'll simplify it for you, but you sow to God, you sow up to God, you plant a seed of faith. The whole kingdom operates on faith. It doesn't operate on logic. You will not create a miracle with logic. And a miracle is nothing more than a divine step of God for you moving in towards God. Now, the second thing is non-judgment, which means not to fear, not to have doubt. So Ryan, I want you to safe touch any fear, doubt, or uncertainty or disbelief you have. And I want you to say, I'm going to release this in my heart now. I forgive myself for having fear and doubt. I confess, God, I have doubted. That's sin. I trust. I believe wholeheartedly. You already did this for me. It's already mine. I'm certain that you're going to prosper me because that's your nature. Praise you, God. Thank you, God. I receive now. And just come into the place of certainty in your heart. I love, accept, and forgive myself. And just wipe that fear and that shrug that doubt right off of you. Stop and correct every time. Every time. So my son's teeth need healing. Okay, so let's talk about teeth. So teeth is your ability to bite, to clench. Okay, so teeth pain can be some of the worst pain that exists in the mortal sense. I've had to have teeth extracted for that very reason. And, well, the one thing that I know to be true is that our Creator is not going to leave us in pain. You see, the fulfillment of all is from within self. Now, that includes, for instance, if we need to go see someone to have something done. You see, I've had these done because I played hockey for 20 years. I've had teeth knocked out. This one was broken. These 3 were knocked out, all of them. And so I've had them done. Now, I don't feel ashamed that I went to go have them done to resolve the problem. And there was a time when I felt I didn't have the money to have them done because, as you know, these can be very expensive. But God being God, God the good, knows the desires of your heart even before you do. So imagining the desired outcome means to reflect on having the solution, coming from that solution, and knowing that God will orchestrate the details and bring the people, the money, all the things into your life that you need. They'll all just come into your life when you are operating from that consciousness. So don't be afraid to let other people help you. See, I would pray for the teeth if it were to have to do with pain. And I've done that before, but you know what? Sometimes you have to go do something about it in the physical because our minds are tough and our minds are powerful. And teeth pain is some of the worst pain. I don't know if it has to do with pain, but I've had teeth pain, and that's been some of the worst pain I've ever experienced. And so I remember praying about it for about a month one time. and things would go good and I would be fine. I would convince myself that I didn't have any physical body, no teeth, no nothing, and I'd be pain-free. And then in the wintertime, I'd go run outside and the cold air would hit those nerves, and it would be about 3.5 hours. I'd have to pray again. I'd get rid of the pain. It would go away. And then you know what? About the fourth time that happened, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go take this tooth right out. And I just went and took it out. Never had a problem since. So that's just how I've dealt with it. I don't know what the deal is, but we know that the solution is from within. Okay. The solution is from within. Great health, love, wealth, for all to be well and whole. That's already a fact. I'm so happy this has a reply. Thank you. Thank you for the word tonight. You're welcome. So I'm glad that you guys were here. And again, make sure you check back periodically to MatthewDavidHurtado.com. I'm actually going to be putting on, I have some updates coming, and I'm going to be putting on an intensive, and it's going to have to do with the Matrix Recode that I taught at the Spiritual Special Forces, because that process was so intricate and so deep that I've done it probably almost close to 10 times now. And until you've gotten through it a few times, 5, 6, 7 times, it seems like, man, there's so many steps here. There's so much to do. It's so confusing. Well, the thing is that there's a reason for every step. And I'm going to release a video on why I made it, but it changes the mechanics of how you operate and you approach life. So imagine when you're little, you learn how to walk, and now you learn how to walk, right? And let's say you walk with your feet out and you're kind of walking like this. Well, that creates a certain way that you operate in the world. But what if I come along and teach you how to point your feet in and walk like this? Then I change the mechanics of how you operate. That'll change everything in terms of your engagement with life. So this process, the Matrix Recode, changes the way that you approach life so that you approach it the way that children approach life. You actually approach it out of the adulted mind. You actually approach it in now space, now time, as if all things were happening in now space, now time, and you recode all of the energetics that are happening from within and so without. And so what you're doing is you're busting the linear time track that you were put on when you were captured on the Gregorian calendar, brought into the public fool system, and they programmed you, okay, to be the chattel, to be the herd. And so this process is very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful to get to the subconscious awareness, to get to the holodynes, to get to the principles of how you need to reflect a quality of God back to you. You see, like Mary Baker Eddy was reflecting love back to the Father, even though her human eyes witnessed somebody coming in with a gun that was going to take her out. Her reflection of love busted the whole scene, and it destroyed the error. Well, what happens in life, and I just did a recode today, okay, I do these once a week, is we get to see where we are out of alignment with the will of God, and then we get to see how all the characters lined up. See, I know that certain issues that I've had in my life have been the cause of what's been reflected back. For instance, immorality and anger were issues, okay, growing up in my life. Now, to the people who are blind through the 5 senses, they're always going to be perceiving a world that's out there, and they're going to keep repeating the same consequences time and time again throughout their entire life, and always looking for someone to point the blame to because they think the world is out there. But to someone who's actually more ascended, okay, which we're moving into now, is to take complete responsibility for what happens. Well, immorality means not moral, and moral comes from the etymology of good, which means it's not of the goodness. So anger and not good is a reflection of life. In other words, I used to approach life, okay, looking at life as if there was something not good there. And then I'd get stirred up in anger. Now, you may get this way. You may watch politics and you might get really, really angry, or you might see vaccines, you might see something and you might get really, really, really angry, or you might see immorality. If you see immorality, you are immorality. And see, we struggle with that with the flesh. That's why once a week I do this process, and it allows me to see, like looking under the hood, I get to see every single detailed component of how this is playing out, how I'm creating it, and what I can do to destroy it so that it just drops like a house of cards. It falls right over. Okay, that's powerful. So I'm going to create an intensive for that. It's going to be a 4-week where we meet 2 hours. It'll be every Thursday night, and the replay will be available. But I'm going to take you step by step, okay, so that you can watch it again and you can repeat those steps, mechanical steps, okay, and you'll be able to do it once a week, like I recommend you do it. Why do you want to do it? Well, I'm going to show you that the proof is in the pudding. I have a video that I'm putting together where I'm putting myself on the line, and I'm going to show you that the proof is in the pudding. So stay tuned for that. I'm not going to reveal any more information now, but it's coming. So if you were at the workshop, Spiritual Special Forces, just know it's special forces. Like, you don't get there in one weekend. You're not like, oh, wow, I did the technique, I'm perfect. It's like, good luck with that. I'll tell you what the deal is that you're learning a new mechanical way of approaching life. And what it'll do for you if you keep doing it is it will bring the floor up and bring the ceiling up so that it gets better and better and better and better. So on your low days, you're up here, okay? Where you used to be down here, now you're up here, okay? And you'll be up here and up here. And you'll find that you're not perturbed, you're not shaken by life anymore, because what you'll see is that life truly is coming from within you. It's not happening out there. It's coming from within your heart. It's always in your heart. You'll be able to check your heart, and you'll be able to do a diagnostic on your heart, and you'll be able to see where you are missing the mark, where you're excelling, and correct. Stop and correct. So that's that. I wanted to put a plug in for that. I see some of you guys have checked out already. Welcome, Casey. Hopefully you catch the replay. Elizabeth says, thank you, Matthew. Thank you, George. Beautiful truths tonight. Blessings. I'm going to let you guys go. We're at the top of the hour. God bless, and see you next Sunday.